Chair.
Ready for it?
All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners. It's March 13th. I'm Aaron Mays. I represent District 3, currently serving as chairman. On my left is Commissioner Bill Rippon, representing District 1. On my right is Commissioner Kevin Cook, representing District 2. Our County Councilor, Rich Eckert, is at the end down there. And our County Clerk, Lisa Schmidt, is at the other end of the desk. Good morning to all of you. Let's go ahead and dive in. First item, please.
All right, first item that we have something on the agenda this morning is item 3, consent agenda.
We have several items on the consent agenda. If there's no questions or concerns, I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item 4A, County Clerk. 1, consider all voucher payments.
All right, our total vouchers this week is $2,232,475.62. Significant payments include $292,099 to TLG Operations for a heavy-duty recycling truck for salt from the Solid Waste Fund, and $82,462 to Key Equipment and Supply Company for a heavy-duty roll-off truck from Solid Waste Fund. And if there's no questions or concerns, I will move for approval of the vouchers.
Go ahead.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item B, District Attorney. 1, consider the request to replenish the cold case fund in the amount of $150,000 from the contingency fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Kage, Shawnee County DA. As you will recall, this fund was originally established in 2014 for the prosecution of cold cases and capital cases. I've been before you over the years, and I would thank you for your past support of this fund. This has enabled us to pursue justice in cases that have not been immediately solved by local law enforcement. We've been successful in investigating several of them, and we have closed the book on others which are not going to be prosecutable, but we have been successful in prosecuting others. And every time we take one of these cases to trial, it certainly depletes that fund. And so I'm here before you today letting you know that fund is actually fully depleted. We're at a negative balance as I stand here before you. And I'm asking for the use of contingency funds to replenish it to its original level of $150,000. I would note over the years we have done this a couple of times, and at other times as well. I've been before you near the end of the year when I had a surplus and asked you to sweep that balance into the fund so we could keep the work going forward.
Any questions?
In checking with our audit finance director, we did not replenish it at all in 2024. The last time it was replenished was in 2023. Is that correct, Jennifer?
That's correct. Yeah, sorry.
Jennifer Sauer, Financial Administrator. Yes, that is correct. In 24, there were no deposits at all made into this fund. It was last replenished in October and December of 2023.
Okay, all right. And then, Mr. District Attorney, I know that you just recently completed a higher profile cold case, and I don't believe we have any capital cases that are pending, thankfully, in our county at this time. Do you anticipate there being a lot of cold cases that you're still working on, or do you know off the top of your head how many cold cases we're still operating off of?
We're at any given time in every single year, we are investigating all the cold cases. So as we go through the process, our investigator has to date reviewed at least 48 of these unsolved homicides. and some of them are in various stages of the investigation with DNA testing, pending, things like that. Part of the difficulty in, predicting something like this is you don't know when that evidence is gonna come back with a hit. You don't know when that evidence is gonna lead you to a point where you can actually file the case itself. So it's incredibly difficult for me to give you a hard number there.
And I guess it was a really poorly worded question. My question was more without there being any capital cases, with the closure of a higher profile cold case, there's still a need for this fund, and there's still cases that are being investigated.
Yes,
And
sir.
that was, you answered the question, I just worded it poorly.
Thank you.
I don't have anything additional.
Okay, so if memory serves me, when we put money into this December of '23, it was almost specifically for one case. It wasn't, that we knew that there was a case coming up, a retrial. So, is that, is that where most of this money went, was that one case probably,
Yes.
or, okay?
Yeah, if you're talking about the recently concluded matter in Pottawatomie County,
Yes.
I would say it's fair to say a good portion of the fund was depleted there. But when I make that request, it was not specific to a single case, and it's never been tied to a single case.
Okay, but it was anticipated there would be some large expenses, but, okay. I don't question the necessity for the $150,000 for this fund. I guess I question the source a little bit with contingency. We typically like to keep the contingency around for emergency situations, when an elevator breaks at the election office and we haven't planned for that expense. This seems like something that probably would be more of a budgeted fund. Is there, maybe Jennifer might be the better person to talk to about this.
And I have had some conversations with Jennifer about this idea, and I'm very comfortable with the idea of moving this into a line item in the budget. The difficulty becomes, I can never tell you with any level of certainty which cases are going to go to jury trial and which ones will not. That is a reflection of a constitutionally guaranteed right by the defendant. Some of these cases, for example, we had one that could have been a capital case that we resolved last year and will go to sentencing this summer. That case has been resolved short of a jury trial, saving us an incredible amount of resources, time, and expense. I can't tell you when that's going to happen, when it won't happen. So when the jury trials do occur, that is something we cannot adequately plan for in high-level cases like this. And certainly we have expert fees that come up in those situations as well that we can't anticipate.
Okay.
So to answer your question, I think it's a bit of a hybrid. I think there's a way to make a portion of this go into the budget, and we can build that in going forward. But even then, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that when we file these cases, we're not going to have unplanned expenses, because that always happens.
All right. Any further questions?
No.
No.
The motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
A second.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Cook and a second by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item C, Planning Department. 1, public hearing and consider approval of resolution number 2025-20, a conditional use permit to establish a demolition landfill and recycling facility on a 36.05 acre property zoned RR-1 Residential Reserve District located on Northwest 25th Street in Minokan Township.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joni Thadani, Director of the Planning Department. As mentioned, this is a public hearing for a conditional use permit. Property is zoned RR1 and asking to establish a demo landfill recycling facility. A little bit of history on the property. Environmental Health received a complaint from a neighbor regarding some dumping on this property. The neighbor indicated that a truck had entered onto the property by driving around a gate that was blockading it. The person actually drove onto someone else's private property, went around the gate, and then dumped some material. Research was done, and we found that a prior owner had used this parcel as a borrow pit for a KDOT project. We were unable to find any sort of conditional use permits for it to be used as a borrow pit or a landfill or dump area. We sent a letter to the new owner advising them of the violations and concerns that we had, and they reached out to us. They did advise that they had not given permission for anybody to dump on the ground, and they enhanced the gate as well as put up other barriers to prevent dump trucks from being able to get onto the property. They also advised that they wanted to use the property in the future. They were not using the property at that time, but they would like to use it for a demo landfill for clean rubble as well as recycling landfill at some point in the future. We advised that they should apply for a conditional use permit, which is what they did. As a part of that process, letters were sent to 13 neighbors within the area, within the 1,000 feet. We did not receive any comments back from the neighbors prior to the Planning Commission public hearing. That hearing was held on February 10, and one neighbor did appear at that time with questions regarding the future of the parcel. However, what came out was that he was actually a farmer who farmed the ground of this parcel, and when those barriers were put up, he was concerned he wouldn't be able to farm in the future. We were able to connect that farmer with the owner of the property so that they could work out how that was going to happen. The planning commissioners did have a bunch of questions regarding the historical use of the property and, you know, why it was that it was allowed to be misused and why we didn't do anything about it. We talked about how we moved forward with cases and why the conditional use permit was in front of us at that time. They ended up approving or recommending approval 6-0. Location of the property is the blue star on the map. And here is a picture of the land itself. As you can see, there are pits on the ground. If you look back a few years prior to this, it was just farm ground. The whole thing was farm ground. So located right off of Northwest 25th Street, the Highway 24 on and off ramps to the right side there are what this was used to borrow from. Here's the notification for the 1,000 feet. And this is the site plan for the future use. What you can see in green is actually the area that is currently being farmed. They want to keep this as a barrier or buffer zone, and so they do intend to continue to farm that area. The gate and entrance, the only entrance onto the property is at the top left corner in between the green spots. And then current and future dumping spot is within the purple. Staff does recommend approval of this request. As you note, I do have number 1 scratched out and I have a new number 1 written. The reason for this is that originally we were recommending that they obtain any sort of permits from KDHE for their landfill permits. And just a couple of days ago, I was made aware that they had reached out to KDHE and there are no permits that they have to apply for. And so we don't want to make a condition that they can't meet. And so what I would like to do instead is to change that to that they just have to obtain any local and/or state permits as may be required based upon the work and activities as set forth in their statement of use. And this allows us a little room. If in the future they would have to obtain a permit, then it would still require them to do so, but it doesn't require them to do something that they can't do. And so the condition on the resolution in front of you is incorrect, and I'm going to have to make a modified resolution to present to you to sign. We just didn't have the time to do so after the presentation of this matter. So my recommendation would be to approve with these following 3 conditions. And that's it. This is a public hearing, so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. If not.
Real quick question. I noticed on the map, it is right next to railroad tracks. Was the railroad one of the, I believe those are railroad tracks at least.
Yes.
Were they one of the notified parties?
I don't have the particular list here, but we do notify everybody that we can within that 1,000 feet if it is identified on there. And so they should have been one of the properties that was identified.
Okay. And then with water being on the property, is there a stormwater issues at all, or is that all already considered?
Everything has been considered. They have to submit, so as always, when we get these cases, we send them out to review from Environmental Health, Public Works, all of the various departments, and any sort of stormwater runoff plans that have to be complied with, they do have to comply with those. Any drainage reports that need to be submitted, they do have to comply with those. If it wasn't recommended by one of the departments to have that done, then we don't include it as a condition.
Okay. Any other questions for Joni?
I have a couple.
Okay.
Just want to highlight or maybe just reinforce this is labeled as being a landfill, but it is a clean landfill.
Correct.
And so, as I read the memo, clean refers to concrete, soil, asphalt, but non-hazardous materials.
Correct.
And so, again, I know when people see the word landfill, it triggers all different kinds of thoughts about contamination or hazardous, but these are non-hazardous materials.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we're clarified on that.
Right. And yeah, so it's all, for the demo landfill, it's all clean rubble that is allowed to be utilized. And any recycling in the future, that's probably going to be a year or two down the road that they do the recycling portion of it, but this conditional use permit covers that. At that point, they would maybe bring materials on, sort them out, and then haul stuff off that is not allowed to stay, and then the remainder would stay as clean rubble.
Now, if 3 or 4 years from now, Rolling Meadows waste the landfill north of Shawnee, north of Topeka, it becomes unusable for some reason, could they convert this into a mixed use, including hazardous waste?
Not as it stands, no. They would have to come back in and get a new conditional use permit for any sort of regular landfill uses.
Again, just purpose of clarifying, making sure that the public knows this isn't something that's going to turn into something else.
Correct. And as a conditional use permit, any amendments that they want to make, if it's a minor amendment, it's sometimes things that in office we can look at and change, but it's a very small subset of things that we can consider and change. If it's a major amendment, it has to go back in front of the Planning Commission or, and then to you with the Board of County Commissioners. If they want to change the use from a demo and recycling landfill, it would take a whole new conditional use permit.
Okay.
Commissioner Rippon?
Yes. Between those two green areas you had on that one, is there currently a gate there right now?
There is a gate there, and then they've put up some cement barriers around,
Okay.
because what had happened originally is that a truck had come down 25th, and where the gate is, if I get my pointer correct, I'm gonna use the wrong item here. Okay, so up here is where the gate is. Someone came and went over onto this property and then avoided the gate to get onto the property to dump. And so now they've put up barriers so that they can't get in. And that's actually why the farmer came to the meeting, because he could no longer access the property for farming purposes.
I see.
And so they're gonna have to address that, how to let him in and out, whether it be to access that gate. But we, that was the concern, that any person with a dump truck sees, hey, here's land that we either previously used for dumping ground or a borrow pit, or, hey, look, this is convenient, I'm gonna come and dump some stuff here. It is blocked off so that just your normal person could not come into the property without having permission.
And of course, they're using just clean fill in this area. What's the ultimate goal? Are they wanting to just level up this site to use it for farming or whatever?
I will allow the applicant to answer that question. I will allow them to answer that question. I mean, I think it's
Okay.
gonna take some time, but as
Sure.
typical, when you have a borrow pit like this, and as you start to fill things in, the hope would be for reclamation overall. But based on their conditional use permit and the recycling aspect of it, I believe that they will intend to use it for a longer period than just to fill the current holes.
Okay, any other questions?
I do not.
All right, I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. We're in a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the applicant?
Thank you, Commissioners. Vernon Jarbo, Sloan Law Firm, Topeka, here on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is present along with the engineer who did the design work and has handled the KDHE issues. Probably what makes the most sense is, rather than I make up an answer to the question you posed about what's the long-term plan, I think I'll let the applicant speak to that.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah, our intention is to, once this is filled in, to continue to use some for recycling benefits. I don't think it will take all the ground. I think some of it will be able to be farmed. Some of this green will expand to be able to be farm ground. But that is kind of the plan. And honestly, by the time this is full, I think it'll be plenty of years from now. I don't know if it's going to be an issue for myself. I think we'll be many years down the road. But that is the plan, is to continue to recycle, not filling above the grade, but keep at grade, and then farm some of the rest.
Okay. And would you be willing to state your name for the clerk?
Oh,
I could see,
Roger.
she kind of leaned forward. She was getting ready to ask you, so.
Sorry, first time. Roger Wolfram.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh,
I got one more
Commissioner Cook?
question, sorry. Are you planning on placing any scales on the property or allowing other people to bring items in, or is this going to be solely just your use without any scales?
Without any scales, it will be for our use. We may have outside companies hauling for us, but for our projects.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other people wishing to speak in favor of this? How about in opposition? Neutral? Seeing none, I would make a motion that we close the public hearing and approve the resolution with the one amendment that was mentioned. Do you want me to state that? Because I don't remember it exactly as you worded it.
We should probably break that, like, that was 3 motions in that sentence, so maybe we should.
Okay,
close the
all
public
right,
hearing.
I'll close the public hearing. That'll be my motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Okay, so then I would amend it. I'll make a motion that we amend to take out the requirement to obtain a solid waste processing permit from KDHE. So that'll be the motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon to amend. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Okay. We good?
Ms.
All right.
Shawnee?
And is that so then, do you need to do another motion approving?
Yeah, so
Okay,
we have a
okay.
motion to approve now.
Okay.
So I will move that we approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Okay, we're all good?
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you very much, and thank you guys for being here today. Next item, please.
Item D, Sheriff's Office. 1, acknowledge the Sheriff's Office is renewing an annual maintenance agreement, contract C88-2025 with CBS Manhattan that includes security cameras and door access controls for the LEC facilities at a cost of $38,857. Renewal period May 4th, 2025 to May 3rd, 2026.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Bronaugh, Sheriff's Office. The only thing I'll add to that is that the service agreement will cover not only just the LEC, but also our North Storage Building, our training complex, and also our Outpost Building. It's an annual agreement that has gone on for quite some time, longer than I can remember. So.
Okay. Any questions?
No. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item E, Election Office. 1, consider approval of the invoice from the Kansas Secretary of State for the 2025 annual fee of $30,000 for the Election Voter Information System, also known as ELVIS.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jake Fisher, Shawnee County Elections Office. And yes, this is our annual renewal payment. The system has been used since 2005. The $30,000 payment is the same as it's been for many years. It's based on our population, and we use this for voter registration to track that, and this is just an annual subscription fee. I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions?
I do not.
I would move for approval. Thank you very much.
Okay, you got it. Motion by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Next item, please.
I know. They're slow. Slow.
Facilities Management. 1, consider a request to issue a request for qualification for architectural and MEP professional design services for the restroom renovation at the Shawnee County Courthouse.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nelda Henning, Director of Facilities. I had been before you previously to ask for professional services that gave us a schematic design layout and a project budget. We also took that to the City of Topeka for their review. We have received no red flags at this time, so we are requesting to proceed on with another selection process. This time around, we will be seeking design development, construction, and bidding documents, and then to move forward with the possibility of bidding this project. With your approval, we'll issue the RFQ, and any responses will be sent to the Professional Service Committee for selection prior to coming back to you for a contract. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Yeah.
With the information that you have so far, are you concerned about being able to pay for this with the preliminary information that you have so far? Do we have enough money set aside?
We do not have enough money set aside currently. The budget as it stands right now is $325,000. The preliminary estimate is $499,000. But even with moving forward, we would be into another budget year, that if we could get through to the point where we actually have bidding documents, we can do another estimate to decide whether we would move forward or not with the project. But the concern is the state of the current plumbing stacks within the facility.
Okay.
So the plumbing stacks are the big concern here. Has any work been done on those to shore them up, at least until this gets going?
We are doing it as needed currently. When we get to a situation where we have some crumbling issues, we try to do a patch job. And that's kind of where we're at.
Okay. The other thing, and I mentioned this to you before, on the designs themselves, they still kept those seating areas inside the restrooms. Can we just turn those into custodial closets or something?
We have gotten a lot of pushback over the last year about those seating areas. They do get used by staff in the courthouse. A lot of times they have only a few minutes to take a break and they need to make a personal call or something like that. They use those seating areas for that at this time. If we wanted to look at it in a different light, we can, but we have left them currently. With the proposed plan as it stands right now, we have added lavatories to all of the female units so that we have increased the count, which will help offset the demands that we currently have.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
But we're only adding one additional lavatory.
Correct.
So it's not like we're adding.
We are adding one per floor.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that it's clear. We're not adding multiple, so we're going to go from 2 to 3.
Yes,
Okay.
but we are currently at what code requires. So by adding what we're adding, we are actually going above what code requires.
And I know that we're already at a $500,000 budget, and anything we talk about is only going to increase the cost. But is there any way to turn that seating area into additional stalls? Because I know that there are times when we have an influx of people that when they're getting their tags renewed, or if there's a jury service or jury duty. When you have 30 people, it creates lines and frustrations.
I understand, and like you said, it will add additional costs. We can look at that, but there again, it could raise the red flag back up that we're trying to avoid at this point. Be willing to look into it further.
Okay. And I understand needing to have a place to make a phone call on a short break. I question the privacy, or if you really want to be making the call in the bathroom. That doesn't seem the best. I mean, if you wanted a private.
Flushing in the background.
If you wanted a private room, let's provide a private room.
There is a door between them, but yes, I
Still.
understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I kind of question that. What's the purpose of that door? It looks like it's kind of an ADA issue in that, okay, this door has to close before you can open this door, and you can't turn around till this door's. It just seems like a bottleneck having those doors there.
It does work according to what the ADA requires
I
at
know it
current
requires
level.
what's required, but it's awkward.
It does get awkward, yes, but we are trying to provide the spaces that the staff are requesting along with the facilities that is in demand for the public.
I know that our clerk and treasurer are very much in support of us renovating and improving and expanding the services there. So,
And most likely the DA's office as well.
Right.
In the court,
but
so.
if we can, again, I think adding additional lavatories, if possible, without excessive increases to the budget, that would be something to look at. But at this point, your request is for a request for qualification for the architectural
And MEP.
and MEP.
So this would take us to the next step that would allow us to continue moving forward with the project, but at no cost we would have the cost for the design services, but there would be no construction costs associated at this point.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the request for qualifications.
Second, motion by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes 3-0. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item G, Information Technology. 1, consider waiving the purchase policy for purchase with CDW-G for 100 personal computers for $100,000 as part of the regular computer refresh.
Morning, Commissioners. Mark Price, Information Technology. This is kind of reverse of what we normally like to do, but in February, we went to get some price quotes for our regular tech refresh that we do every year. When we started to get those price quotes back, our vendors informed us there was going to be an impending price increase. So we worked with Audit Finance to get approval. We did do 3 bids, and these were prices based upon state contract. And we made a purchase of these 100 computers to save a pending increase on the computers. And just this is a kind of formality of letting you guys know and getting approval.
Questions for Mark?
No.
Okay. Typically, I don't like retroactive purchases, but I think in this case it made sense to do it, so I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item G2, consider approval of the request to change a project budget's usage requirements from the replacement of data center AC units to IT office additions and IT infrastructure projects.
Morning, Commissioners. Mark Price again. Back in 2020, my predecessor had made a request to create a project budget of $100,000 to replace our HVAC units in our old data center on the 2nd floor of the courthouse. That was something we had in our capital outlay funds for 2022. We had some extra money at the end of the year and allocated that $100,000 to be able to replace those HVAC units. That was approved. After that was approved, I think, was it 21? In 21, the courthouse project started, and with that project, we ended up relocating our data center to the basement of the courthouse, and the new HVAC units for that area became part of the courthouse project. So this $100,000 in this project kind of became a money and funds without a home. What I'm requesting is we have some needs in IT to add some additional office space. We have some at-home workers that, when they come to the office, don't really have any space to go to. We really only have one extra workspace in our IT area, and we have about 9 people who I would like to have start coming in to meet and coordinate with on a more regular basis. So part of this money would be going to renovate to allow them to have a space to come into. I believe that project we're looking maybe around $50,000. We did set aside $14,000 last year. That will help with that too. Then the rest of this project budget, what my intent would be is to use it to fund some other things we have going on in the county with IT. Along with the power outage we had at elections last week, we had a generator issue that's caused an elevator issue. We also have our Liebert system in our data center there that is, we're being told it's reaching its end of life and are going to have to do some sort of replacement that I don't have a price estimate on. Then we also have, as the county expands, buying buildings, adding new office spaces. We're buying equipment that we weren't budgeted for, and so some of that would also go to helping cover those expenses.
Questions?
Let's talk about breaking this down just a little bit. You've got $100,000 that you're asking to allocate to office space, and then a bunch of miscellaneous.
Yes.
Okay. The office space, let's start with that. The office space that you currently have within this building at 707 Quincy, it appears fairly full. Are you planning on moving some of your items somewhere else to create this office space?
We have space where we could add a few cubicles. So we have, if you've been to our office, we have 2 areas that have cubicles. We'd be expanding both of those cubicle areas to add 2 cubicles to one and one large cubicle to another area. The one large cubicle would house some printers and the individual that does check printing and some other things. Currently, he is taking up 2 cubicle spaces between his printers and his office space. And then that would, so by adding that one large cubicle, we'd free up 2 cubicles there, add 2 additional cubicles onto the end of that workspace, which would give us, by moving one person, adding 2 would give us 4 additional cubicles. The other piece was going to be taking our conference room, breaking it into 2 office spaces, and then one office space, which we're using as a office space / storage room. We were going to move 3 of our techs in there and relocate the kind of the store we have there into another storage room we have on the 2nd floor.
So with all of that, you're losing your conference room,
Yes.
which at some point you're going to ask for a conference room.
We've thought about that. I have talked some with Jennifer. They have a conference room on the 3rd floor we'd be able to use, and we also have a training room we could use as a conference room in the basement.
Okay. Just, I'm trying to think down the road what the next request is going to be. Do you have an estimate or project budget for this 1 large, 2 small, transferring of the conference room, what that cost is going to be?
We don't have a firm cost yet. We would have to, the next step here would be going and having an architect do a drawing. That conference room does have a cooling unit that would have to be relocated. And so I know we'd have to bring in an architect and deal with the cooling system and adding the wall and moving the cooling system.
Okay. I know 100,000 sounds like a lot of money. It's more than most people's annual salaries, but I also know how projects creep and expand, and we have hidden costs or unexpected costs. Before we commit to this, shouldn't we know exactly what your office space budget is so that we don't wind up getting into this and the $100,000 doesn't cover the entire project, and then you're asking for another $100,000 to come out of contingency?
If you would like, I could, we could pull this and I could come back with a request to go ahead and do would it be a request for quote to find that out of what the construction cost would be, and we do have some rough estimates on what the furniture we'd have to buy. So I can do that if you'd like.
That would be good. And then, just for the information, I'm very uncomfortable with the creation of a, lack of a better word, a slush fund. I understand that there's additional requirements and expenses that have been put upon you as people are renovating their office spaces or connecting buildings. We have Parks and Recreation who have acquired some additional buildings and making sure they're connected fiber-wise. But I am very uncomfortable with the idea of just creating a slush fund that you're drawing from. It should be part of your budget, and because we should have identified where this money is going to go to. Otherwise, it's all going to nickel and dime away, and there's not going to be any idea of where it went.
Okay.
So, but I think we start with needing to understand what your project budget is going to be for this office space. So,
Yeah. So, I mean, this money's not going anywhere right now. It's in a place. It's got a placeholder. I think probably the most appropriate thing is to figure out how much this is going to cost and then come back and we'll talk about the funding and source at that time. So,
Okay.
do we need a motion?
Oh,
No?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Thank you.
defer.
Appreciate it, Mark. Thank you. Next item, please.
H, Health Department. 1, request approval for the Shawnee County Health Department to apply for the Kansas Department of Health and Environment Aid to Local Grants for the state fiscal year 2026.
Good morning, Commissioners. Teresa Fisher, Director of the Health Department. My team and I were here on Monday at the work session to provide an in-depth review of the aid to locals. This includes 7 of them. The regional preparedness came before you last week, but this includes the other 7 grants that you heard on Monday. This is for the state fiscal year funding, which would begin July 1. I'm happy to entertain any questions you might have.
Questions for Teresa?
we covered it all on Monday, and so I feel comfortable with it, and I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Next item, please.
I, Noxious Weed Department. 1, consider approval to award bid for weed management chemicals to Missouri Farmers Association of Emporia, Kansas.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Landon, Director of the Weed Department. In late January, I was before the board here and asked permission to solicit bids for chemicals for the 25 season. You gave me permission to do that. Those bids were opened on February 25th with a total of 12 vendors who submitted bids to supply chemicals to us. After reviewing those bids were recorded by Audit Finance and submitted to me. After reviewing them, we've selected Missouri Farmers Association to supply herbicides for the whole package. I have Heath Burt here from MFA with me today to answer any questions we might have or you might have for those. He can also give you a little vendor update on you know, what it looks like for the upcoming year to be sure we're not going to run into any issues. Missouri Farmers Association has been great to work with. They're just located in Emporia. There's been points in time where we hadn't been able to get chemical from other people, and they've always been able to supply that chemical to us. Heath lives locally here in Topeka. He's on occasion brought it down to us on his way home, and with them being so convenient in Emporia, we can just run and grab it. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or bring him up to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
I don't, we've been working with this vendor, so we're familiar with them already.
Yeah, since a little before COVID, and they were, you know, COVID was a bad year for us where other vendors couldn't get us chemical. They did, so.
Commissioner Rippon?
Thank you. Are all these chemicals made in the United States, or are some of these brought in from other countries?
So most active ingredients are made overseas. Then they're shipped here to the United States and then they're manufactured. So you get the active ingredient like triclopyr overseas brought here, and then all the inner ingredients are put in and bottled here.
But we don't see any, we aren't anticipating any problems with the.
You know, I don't believe, I think, Heath, you might have, I think the only one that I know of right now is just the 2,4-D prices increasing, but I don't know why that is yet.
Heath Burt with Missouri Farmers Association. That's a great question. I would say this year, all these products are typically already shipped in for this season. I would forecast for next year, they will go up about 15 to 20%. But most of the products that are going to be used for this season are already here in the United States. So I wouldn't forecast any shortfalls or price increases for this year. And as I've worked with John in the past, when we submit our bid, we honor that price through the season, even if we do see forecast or increases. Typically, MFA buys those products far enough in advance that we never usually see a shortfall during the season that they're needed. So we do not forecast any increase, and once our bid's submitted, we honor that price throughout the entire season.
Okay. That's all I need. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
No.
All right. I would move for approval then.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mays and a second by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you,
John.
Commissioners.
Next item, please.
J, Public Works. 1, consider resolution number 2025-14 and resolution number 2025-15, authorizing the placement and maintenance of no-engine braking signs along the northbound Croco Road between Southeast Sycamore Drive and Southeast 6th Street, and along westbound Southeast 6th Street between K4 Highway and Southeast Croco Road.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. Essentially, these two resolutions do, well, two things. One, they prevent trucks from using, or drivers from using their heavy truck engine brakes for northbound Croco Road traffic approaching Southeast 6th Street. And likewise, they prevent or discourage truckers from using engine brakes on westbound 6th Street approaching Croco Road. With that, I look forward to your questions.
Questions?
Kurt, this is still a fairly residential neighborhood,
Mhm.
and so this should make the residents a little bit able to sleep in the evenings and not hear truck traffic.
We have received a couple complaints, so this is in response to that.
Okay.
Kurt, it seems like every once in a while I get requests for this exact same thing in other parts of the county. Should we just send those to you when they come in?
If you think they are warranted or appropriate, please do.
Are there criteria that you look for in deciding where they go or not
Not so
go?
much on these signs. I mean, if people have complaints, they can't sleep, they're being, that noise is very, I mean, you can hear
Yeah.
it from a long distance because it's so low-throated. If you believe your constituents have a problem in a specific area, please forward to me and we'll take care of it.
Okay, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Nope. I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Cook, a second by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item J2, consider resolution number 2025-18 and resolution number 2025-19, establishing temporary all-way stop controlled intersections on Northwest 62nd Street at Northwest Button Road and Northwest Rochester Road.
Kearney House, Director of Public Works. This is an extension of our Northwest 46th Street project, which you approved last Thursday. As you know, we have two signed detours associated with this project. One involves Northwest 62nd Street, and the other one involves Northwest 35th Street. As far as Northwest 62nd goes, because it will pick up traffic, the idea was to allow people better opportunity, more opportunities to make left turns onto Northwest 62nd Street and from Northwest 62nd Street, as well as people on Rochester Road trying to pass south through Northwest 62nd Street. That is the reason for these changes in signing. We don't take these changes in signing lightly. An engineer, a traffic engineer, should never do so. Whenever you change conditions, people are creatures of habit, and they drive accordingly. And whenever you change the conditions of traffic control in an intersection, you need to give it plenty of thought. We have been preparing for this since last Thursday. We've got message boards up on Northwest 62nd. We will have a change in intersection control on northbound Rochester Road as well as northbound Button Road. And so we're doing our best. We have some signs up. We are going to reflectorize the posts. We're going to add flags. We're going to put big you-know-what signs on Northwest 62nd, the biggest that we can. And we want people to see and understand that there's going to be a change in operation at these locations. So with your approval, this will just be another step forward in preparing for that.
Commissioner Rippon?
Yes, thank you. Does this resolve the concerns that the Seaman School District had with their bus traffic that they had?
Well, it, just like with the public, it gives bus drivers an opportunity to make left turns if they need to pass through the intersection at 62nd Street when it's their turn. Remember, we're talking about all-way stops. Now, I have received calls from the public. What's an all-way stop? Well, if you have 4 legs to an intersection, it's an old 4-way stop. If you have 3 legs to an intersection, it's an old 3-way stop. The MUTCD changed a number of years ago the language. So all-way is the language that we're using. And there will be a placard below the stop signs that show an all-way stop. So I think the bus traffic will also benefit from the changes. The
school districts are aware of the changes, and hopefully things will go relatively smoothly.
I know they had a concern with one of the intersections.
It seemed to me, I think what you're talking about, it seemed to me the public seemed to be most concerned with the intersection of Northwest 62nd at US 75. But we have removed that connection from our North Detour Lane.
Yeah, I don't recall that it was on 75, but it was, I know the person that manages all their
And
buses.
there were a number of comments about the intersection at 62nd and
Okay.
Rochester, and hopefully this will allay some of his concerns.
Okay.
Commissioner Cook?
You know, I appreciate trying to address the safety concern. The one concern I have, you've already touched on it, is where people are not used to a stop sign, and now there is a stop sign. If they don't stop at the stop sign, is it going to create a safety hazard? You've already addressed putting up signage to alert people, flags, whatnot. Are we going to add the flashing lights too, or is that too much?
We have no plans to add the flashing lights right now, for the simple reason they tend to disappear. So right now, we've got these big message boards out there. We're going to leave them up for a couple weeks. And as things settle down, we'll replace the message boards with the change in intersection operation, essentially signs, approach signs. I think we'll do our best, and we've done a great job so far of preparing the public. I'll give you an example. We had our stop signs up on 62nd. We had them covered. You don't want them out there before you're ready, so we had them covered. Unfortunately, people could see the shape of the sign through the blanket or the cover, or whatever you want to call it, and it was influencing their action at the intersection. So people are aware of the changes. The problem is we didn't want them to react to those stop signs at this time because there's no closure yet. So we've actually taken the stop signs down so they do not disturb the normal flow of traffic. But when the detours go in place, that is when we want the stop signs honored.
Yeah, and I typically worry more about the removal of a stop sign than the addition of a stop sign. It seems like that's when
Good point.
you run into problems.
Absolutely. But at some point, we'll have to remove these unless they become permanent. And
Yeah.
right now, this is a temporary request.
Yeah, I know if you drive down 12th Street much, there's still a lot of people stopping at McVicker and Oakley.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, a year later, 2 years later, however long it's been.
Our intersection out here is a prime example.
Yeah.
When they took the lights out, people still act like the lights are still there when they go through there.
Yeah.
They stop, but I don't know.
So I would make a motion that we approve these two resolutions.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt. Next item, please.
K, Parks and Recreation. 1, consider approval of contract C81-2025 with Game Time, care of Cunningham Recreation through the Omnia U.S. Communities Cooperative for the purchase and installation of playground equipment in Nellie Hogan Park, utilizing the City of Topeka Dreams Grant in the amount of $29,686.18.
Good morning, Commissioner. Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. So, as the clerk stated, we're working with a few partners on this. Nellie Hogan herself and the Neighborhood Association helped pick out the playground equipment that we purchased or that we're wanting to purchase. And this is funded by a Dreams Grant with the City of Topeka. It's an inclusive piece. It's a small piece for kids 2 to 5. And we think it'll be a nice addition to the relatively new Nellie Hogan Park. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I think it's great always to highlight when we're adding things to parks and improving parks. So
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second. Motion by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Probably also ought to recognize, thank you to the City of Topeka for that grant.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
next item, please.
2, consider approval of contract C86-2025 for the purchase of a topsy-turvy spinner for Home Park. AFCO will provide the landscape structures, product, and installation through the Greenbush Co-op for $12,966 from previously approved CIP funds.
Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. So we had a piece of playground equipment that was vandalized at Horn Park, so that we had to remove, an old merry-go-round. So we purchased this as a replacement, or we'd like to. And it's a same general premise. It's you can climb on it. It spins. It's not the old school merry-go-round, but it's a good piece of equipment. We have it in some other parks. This will, I think, for all intensive purposes, wrap up that previously awarded CIP money for parks and playgrounds. We used some of it last a week ago or 2 weeks ago for a shade structure at the dog park at Lake Shawnee, and then now we're going to use the remainder here for this. It is an inclusive piece, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Tim?
I would move for approval.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
3, consider approval to award the bid Q005-25 and subsequent agreement, contract C91-2025 with Edwards Chemicals for the purchase of aquatic chemicals used by Parks and Recreation during the 2025 season.
Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. So we did go out for bid, our RFP on this, and we only received one bid, and that was from Edwards Chemical. We have used them for the past 6 years. Quite honestly, they're a great partner. There's a lot to this. We've got 8 different locations where we're having chemicals delivered, and they know the routine. Their prices just changed barely. I think it's 25 cents on sodium bicarbonate was the only change. So we're happy with them, and with your approval, we'd like to renew this agreement.
Questions?
Nope.
I'd move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you. Next item, please.
4, consider approval to award the bids and subsequent agreements to Falk Architects Incorporated, C92-2025, and Mammoth Sports Construction, LLC, C93-2025, for respective service bids in response to Q006-25.
Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. Sorry for all those numbers. Yeah, this is for architectural and engineering services. Start with the architecture. Brian Falk, or Falk Architects, has been our on-call person now for, I think, 6 or 7 years. And Brian's very responsive when we need something. He was the lowest bidder, and we're happy to continue that relationship with your approval. And then, I don't know if we want to talk about both of them at the same time, and with the
Same
item,
agenda
I
item,
guess.
so.
Mammoth would be a new one for us. It would be a new vendor, but they're not necessarily new as far as working relationship. We've done several projects with Mammoth. They were the lowest, most responsive bidder from the engineering side of this. We had 7 architecture firms put bids in, and 6 engineering firms. Some of them wanted to do both, but these are, both of these are the lowest, and we think most responsive bids, and we'd like to move forward with these contracts.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
All right, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
I don't believe we had anyone signed up for public comment.
I did not have anybody signed up.
All right. Item 6, administrative communications.
Okay, here comes one.
Good morning, Commissioners. Susan Duffy, Shawnee County Treasurer. I want to let you know of a change we're making in processing on the last business day of the month. If you were in our offices Friday, February 28th, It was like a convention at both locations. We had over 300 people at both locations walking in to get their end of the month registration renewals done. There were long waits. And even though we try and get our folks to sign up for reservations, we get a lot of walk-in. And the last day we're open from 7:30 to 4:30, we're swamped. So we looked at the data, and it appears that on titles, new titles, if we have our folks come in by appointment only, that will help us. And it's so easy to go online and make an appointment. For example, right now, all the appointments are open for March 31st. You get to designate why you are coming into the office. That tells the system how much time to allot for you so that we can take care of your business efficiently and quickly. When you're waiting over an hour in our office and in the main hallway, it was congested, it was warm, temperature-wise, it was warm, and we would prefer that with titles, some of that work can take over 30 minutes if there are issues and multiple titles. Other title work goes pretty quickly, but we will be switching our title work on just the last day of the month to appointment only. We will advertise this online. It's already there. We'll put it on our door. We'll share that information. But our goal is to get those folks, by human nature, waiting till the last day of the month to come renew, to get those in and out as quickly as possible, again, at both of our locations, first floor of the courthouse, the 17th Street Annex. So if there's not any questions, I just wanted to announce that to you. Also, if I could go back on our issue with the restrooms. Our restrooms on the first floor, and I have female employees, only 2 male. And a lot of public uses our restrooms too. The clerk's office, the courts, there's so many women using essentially a restroom with 2 stalls and then a family. On your break time, the last thing you want to do is go to the 2nd floor, see if that's available, go up to the 3rd floor, see if those are available. But that's what we do. The condition of them is deplorable and maybe ADA, but they're nasty. And so they do need a renovation. And we do have a lot of public that comes in and uses our facilities. And I don't think that's quite the front door, bathroom door you would like for our public to even see and have to deal with. And I would agree with Nelda. I know there are structural issues, but if there's a way to, and it's kind of unusual, I'm up here asking for that, but I do know it is an issue with our women in my office, and I support any improvements that can be made. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Susan, I have a question.
Yeah.
Your title work by appointment only, is that just at the end of the month, or is that?
That is only the last day of the month
Okay.
will be
That's all I
appointment only. Now, we do cut off title work at 3 o'clock. That's to ensure that we're getting your title work done and you're walking out the door as well, that we're not backed up. And so we do cut off title work at 3. There are a couple of days that we've had to cut off earlier, title work earlier, but we make we take every opportunity to say, how can we schedule you next week? What works for you? Then you walk in, your appointment's there, boom. We get you we get your work done, and out the door you go.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. I just wanted to announce that we're getting ready to start our next Basic Officer Academy. It will start here in a week. We have approximately 20 candidates that will be going through our 4-week academy. Very efficient, very thorough academy, from legal issues all the way to behavioral health response, negotiations, report writing, legal stuff, you name it. And I just wanted to let you know that we'll be getting our next academy.
Okay, thank you.
Courtney House, Director of Public Works. I know that we've been talking about this project, seems like very intensely over the last 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a little bit more time, but reminder, Friday, time yet to be determined, Northwest 46th Street will be closed at Green Hills Road, Green Hills Place. The closure will be isolated to that area only, but there will be a closure to through traffic on Northwest 46th Street on Friday. So just a friendly reminder. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Cook?
I have nothing today.
Commissioner Rippon?
I have nothing to add.
All right, I don't have anything either, so next item, please.
All right, last item on the agenda is executive session.
We do not have a need for executive session today, so we are adjourned.